Captain Lee Ji-won sat in the command chair of the starship Indomitable, watching the stars through the main screen. Her hands gripped the armrests as a strange signal came through their communications array. The message was not from Earth. It was not from any human colony. The signal came from somewhere far beyond their known space. "Captain, we're getting a transmission," said Lieutenant Commander Choi Hyeri from her station. "It's using quantum frequencies we've never seen before." Ji-won leaned forward. "Put it on screen." The main display flickered and changed. A tall, thin creature appeared before them. Its skin looked like crystal, reflecting light in beautiful colors. The being had large, gentle eyes and moved with graceful motions. When it spoke, the universal translator worked to change its words into human language. "People of Earth," the alien said, "I am Ambassador Velthar of the Rilani species. We need your help. Our worlds are dying." Dr. Kim Minji looked up from her medical station. She had never seen an alien before, but she could tell this one was scared. The creature's crystalline features were shaking, and its voice carried deep fear. "We have tried everything," Velthar continued. "The Galactic Council has sent our best fleets. We have used our most powerful weapons. Nothing works. The Devourers keep coming, and they destroy everything in their path." Engineer Park Do-yun turned from his console. "Captain, this signal is coming from over 200 light-years away. How is that possible?" "The Devourers consume all life," Velthar said. "They eat planets, ships, everything. Billions of our people die every day. Entire star systems have gone dark. We do not know how to stop them." Captain Ji-won stood up. "Why are you asking us? We're just one small world. Surely, your Galactic Council has better weapons than we do." The alien's crystal skin grew darker. "Your world is listed as a Class 12 death world in our records. This is the highest danger rating we have. Most species cannot survive on planets rated above Class 3. We think this makes you different. We think this makes you strong, Doctor." Kim Minji stepped forward. "What exactly are these Devourers?" Velthar's image became clearer as he adjusted the transmission. "They are like insects, but made of metal and stone. They work together like a hive. They adapt to our energy weapons and make them useless. Our peaceful ways have not prepared us for such evil." The bridge went quiet. Every human crew member looked at each other. They had all heard stories about the dangers of space. But this was real. This was happening right now. "We will send you all our tactical data," Velthar said. "Please look at what we face. Then decide if you will help us." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Captain Ji-won looked at her crew. These were good people, trained for exploration and peaceful contact with alien life. Now they faced a choice that could change everything. "Transfer all the data to the main computer," Ji-won ordered. "I want full analysis in 1 hour." Engineer Park Do-hyun worked quickly at his station. "Captain, the amount of data they sent is enormous. Battle reports from dozens of different species, weapon test results, tactical analyses. This is the record of an entire war." Dr. Kim Minji studied the biological data on the Devourers. "These creatures are not natural," she said. "Someone made them as weapons. They're designed to consume organic matter and turn it into more of themselves." Lieutenant Commander Choi Hyeri reviewed the military reports. "Their fleets are massive, Captain. Hundreds of ships destroyed in single battles. But look at this. All the weapons they used were energy-based. Lasers, plasma cannons, particle beams." Captain Ji-won studied the tactical displays. The alien battles looked strange to human eyes. Ships flew in perfect formations, firing precise energy bursts at specific targets. When the Devourers adapted to their weapons, the aliens seemed unable to change their tactics. "These species are too civilized," she said quietly. "They fight like this is a chess game, not a war." The ship's communication system beeped. A message from Earth Command appeared on screen. Admiral Chen's face looked serious as he spoke. "Captain Ji-won, we've received the same transmission here on Earth. The Defense Council is meeting right now to discuss this situation. Report to Earth immediately." The trip back to Earth took 3 days. During that time, the crew of the Indomitable studied everything they could about the alien war. The more they learned, the more worried they became. The Devourers had destroyed over 50 star systems. The creatures learned from every battle, adapting their defenses to stop the aliens' energy weapons. Worst of all, they were spreading faster than anyone could stop them. At Earth Command, Captain Ji-won joined the emergency meeting. Representatives from every nation sat around a huge table, arguing about what to do. "We should hide," said one representative. "If these creatures are so dangerous, we don't want them to notice us." "But they're spreading in all directions," said another. "Eventually they'll reach us anyway." Dr. Kim Min-ji had come to the meeting as an expert on alien biology. She stood up to speak. "The data shows that the Devourers will reach our sector of space in about 50 years if they keep expanding at their current rate. We can fight them now with allies, or we can fight them later alone." The room erupted in arguments. Some people wanted to send help immediately. Others thought it was too dangerous. The debate went on for hours. Finally, Captain Ji-won asked to speak. "I've read every battle report they sent us. These aliens fight with honor and precision, but they don't fight to win. They fight like they're afraid to get dirty. The Devourers are brutal and savage. To beat them, we might have to be brutal and savage too." "What are you saying?" asked Admiral Chen. "I'm saying that maybe being from a death world gives us advantages they don't have. Maybe we know how to fight in ways they've never imagined." The debate continued through the night. When morning came, the vote was close. By just 3 votes, Earth decided to send help to the Galactic Council. Captain Ji-won was given command of a small fleet. 12 ships with the best weapons and most experienced crews Earth could provide. As they prepared to leave, she wondered if they were making the right choice. "Captain," said Dr. Kim Min-ji as they boarded the Indomitable, "do you really think we can make a difference?" Ji-won looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, entire worlds were dying while their people watched helplessly. "I don't know," she said. "But we have to try. If we don't help them now, who will help us when the Devourers come for Earth?" The human fleet arrived at the Kepler system after 2 weeks of faster-than-light travel. Captain Lee Ji-won stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, staring at the destruction on the main screen. What had once been a beautiful star system with green worlds and busy space stations was now a graveyard. "My God," whispered Dr. Kim Min-ji. "Look what they did." 3 planets hung in space like broken eggs. Their surfaces were gray and lifeless, stripped of all plants, animals, and atmosphere. Pieces of destroyed ships floated everywhere, creating a field of metal debris that stretched for millions of kilometers. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Rilani command ship," said Lieutenant Commander Choi Hieri. Admiral Song Jaemin's image appeared on a smaller screen. He commanded the human fleet from his flagship, the Soul. "Captain Ji-won, take your ship to dock with the alien vessel. We need to meet with their commanders and see what we're dealing with." The Rilani command ship was enormous, 3 times larger than any human vessel. It looked like a crystal palace floating in space, with smooth, curved walls that reflected starlight in rainbow colors. As the Indomitable moved closer, Ji-won could see damage along the ship's hull. Even this giant vessel had been hurt in the fighting. "Docking complete, Captain," reported Engineer Park Do-hyun. "Their atmosphere is safe for us to breathe, but the gravity is only half of Earth's." Captain Ji-won led a small team through the airlock and into the alien ship. The corridors were tall and wide, designed for beings much larger than humans. Everything was made from the same crystal material, and soft light came from the walls themselves. Ambassador Velthar waited for them in a large chamber. When he saw the humans, his crystal features changed color, becoming darker and more blue. Other Rilani stood behind him, all showing the same color change. "Welcome, people of Earth," Velthar said, but his voice sounded uncertain. "We are grateful that you came to help us." Dr. Kim Minji noticed how the aliens moved. They were graceful but fragile, like dancers made of glass. Their large eyes showed intelligence and kindness, but also fear. These were not beings made for war. "Your people look different than we expected," Velthar admitted. "In our databases, humans are described as a carbon-based species, but the files did not explain your physical appearance." Captain Ji-won realized that the aliens were shocked by how humans looked. Where the Rilani were tall and delicate, humans were shorter and more muscular. Where the aliens had gentle features, humans had forward-facing eyes and scars from their harsh homeworld. "We need to understand your enemy," Ji-won said. "Can you show us examples of Devourer technology?" Velthar led them to another chamber where broken pieces of Devourer machines were displayed behind energy shields. The fragments looked like a mixture of metal and living tissue, with sharp edges and dark surfaces that seemed to absorb light. Dr. Kim Minji examined the samples through the protective barrier. "These are biomechanical," she said. "Part machine, part living creature. I've never seen anything like this." "They adapt quickly to our weapons," explained a Rilani scientist named Kethemri. "When we fire energy weapons at them, their armor learns to deflect the same type of energy. After a few shots, our guns become useless." Engineer Park Do-hyun studied the technical readouts. "What about kinetic weapons? Projectiles, explosives, physical impacts?" The Rilani looked confused. "Kinetic weapons are primitive technology," Kethemri said. "No civilized species has used such crude methods for thousands of years. Energy weapons are clean, precise, and efficient." Captain Ji-won and her team exchanged looks. Humans still used kinetic weapons because they were reliable and hard to defend against. Apparently, the rest of the galaxy had forgotten this simple truth. "We need to see them in battle," Ji-won said. "When will the Devourers attack again?" Velthar's crystal skin became even darker. "They never stop attacking. Right now, they are consuming the outer planets of the Zephyr system, only 2 light-years from here. Our remaining fleets are trying to evacuate civilians." Admiral Song Jaemin's voice came through Ji-won's communicator. "Captain, bring your team. Back to the fleet. We're moving to intercept the Devourers at Zephyr." The human ships moved through space much differently than the alien vessels. Where the Rilani fleet flew in perfect formations with smooth, predictable movements, the human ships moved in loose groups, changing direction and speed unpredictably. "Their tactics are chaotic," observed Commander Nethlar, a Rilani military officer who was watching from the command ship. "How do they coordinate their attacks?" Velthar watched the human fleet with growing curiosity. "Perhaps chaos is their strength," The Devourers cannot predict what they cannot understand. When they reached the Zephyr system, the battle had already begun. Devourer ships swarmed around a dying planet like insects around rotting fruit. The creatures' vessels were ugly and functional, with no beauty or elegance, only the single purpose of destruction. The Rilani fleet engaged the enemy first, firing beams of brilliant energy at the attacking swarm. For a few moments, the alien weapons were effective, destroying several Devourer ships. But then the enemy began to adapt. "Their shield frequency is changing," reported a Rilani weapons officer. "Our lasers are becoming less effective." Within minutes, the Rilani weapons were almost useless. The Devourers had learned to defend against the energy attacks, and now they pressed forward toward the alien fleet. "Human ships, this is Admiral." "Song," came the transmission. "All units, switch to kinetic weapons and engage." The human ships opened fire with weapons the aliens thought were primitive. Railguns launched metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Missile tubes fired explosive warheads. Machine guns sprayed bullets in deadly patterns. The effect on the Devourers was immediate and shocking. Their adaptive shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, provided no protection against physical projectiles. Metal slugs punched through, their armor like paper. Explosions tore their biomechanical hulls apart. "Impossible," whispered Commander Nethalar. "The humans are destroying them with ancient technology." Dr. Shin Ariam, the human weapons specialist, had studied the tactical data during the trip to Kepler. She understood why the kinetic weapons worked. The Devourers were created by a highly advanced species that considered projectile weapons obsolete. Their creators never programmed them to defend against primitive attacks. The battle turned quickly. Devourer ships that had seemed unstoppable were being torn apart by human gunfire. The creatures tried to adapt, but kinetic energy was different. From directed energy, there was no frequency to adjust, no beam pattern to deflect. A bullet was just a piece of metal moving very fast, and no amount of adaptation could change the laws of physics. Sergeant Major Yoon Tae-hyung led a boarding party onto a damaged Devourer ship. His Marines moved through the dark corridors with weapons ready, clearing each section with tactics learned from centuries of human warfare. "The interior looks like a mixture of machine shop and slaughterhouse," he reported back. "These things were definitely built to consume and destroy organic life." Dr. Kim Minji studied the samples the Marines brought back. The biomechanical components are incredibly sophisticated, but they're also specialized. They're designed to fight one specific type of enemy, energy weapon-using civilizations. After the battle, the human and alien fleets gathered to assess the results. For the first time in years, the Galactic Council forces had achieved a clear victory against the Devourers. Ambassador Velthar came aboard the Indomitable to meet with the human commanders. His crystal features were brighter now, showing hope. "Instead of despair, you have shown us something we did not believe possible," he said. "The Devourers can be defeated, but we do not understand how you knew to use such tactics." Captain Jiwon looked out at the battlefield, where human and alien ships worked together to rescue survivors from the devastated planet. "On our world, we learned that sometimes the old ways work better than the new ways. Sometimes simple solutions beat complex ones." Dr. Kim Minji added, "Your species evolved on a peaceful world where cooperation was more valuable than competition. Our world was different. We had to fight every day just to survive. That fighting taught us things your people never needed to learn." "Will you teach us?" Velthar asked. "Will you show us how to fight like you do?" Admiral Song Jaemin's image. appeared on the communication screen. That depends. Are you ready to learn from a species you thought was primitive? Are you ready to get your hands dirty? The Rilani ambassador considered this carefully. Around him, the survivors of dozens of destroyed worlds waited for his answer. Finally, he spoke. Yes, we will learn. Our pride has cost us too much already. If your primitive ways can save our people, then we will gladly become primitive too. 3 weeks after the victory at Zephyr, the combined human and alien fleet had grown to over 300 ships. Species from across the galaxy sent their vessels to join the fight against the Devourers. Admiral Song Jaemin found himself commanding an army unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Zentari are logical, but too rigid in their thinking, he explained to his staff during a planning meeting. The Kalathi work well as a group but struggle with individual decisions. The Rilani are brilliant tacticians, but lack the killer instinct needed for war. Colonel Bei Seong-hwan nodded from his position at the tactical display. Each species has strengths, but they all have the same weakness. They fight like they're trying to solve a math problem instead of trying to kill an enemy. Dr. Oh Kyung-ho had spent the past weeks studying how the different alien minds worked. As Earth's expert in psychological warfare, he understood that winning battles was about more than just better weapons. The Devourers operate on a hive mind, he explained. They make decisions by processing information through their collective consciousness. But human behavior doesn't follow logical patterns. We confuse them because we do things that don't make sense to a computer-like mind. Captain Han Ji-young commanded the human special forces. She had been studying Devourer ships and found something interesting. Their vessels are designed like living organisms, with vital systems spread throughout the structure. But they still have weak points, just like any biological creature. The first major test of the new combined tactics came at the Altair system. Intelligence reports showed that a massive Devourer fleet was consuming the outer planets, working their way toward the inhabited worlds where billions of civilians waited for rescue. Admiral Song decided to use this battle as a training exercise for the alien forces. We're going to show them how humans really fight, he told his commanders. The Rilani Fleet Admiral, Velnoth, was amazed by the human battle plan. You want us to split our forces and attack from 6 different directions? That violates every principle of space warfare. We'll be too spread out to support each other. That's exactly the point, explained Colonel Bei. The Devourers expect you to fight in organized formations because that's what logical minds do. We're going to be chaotic and unpredictable instead. The battle began with the alien fleets following human tactical guidance. Instead of the careful, precise attacks they were used to, the Rilani ships darted in and out of combat, firing quick bursts from kinetic weapons before retreating. The Zentari used their mathematical skills to calculate seemingly random attack patterns. The Kalathi split into small groups that acted independently. On the ground, Colonel Bei led the first planetary assault. The planet's surface was a toxic wasteland where the Devourers had set up massive processing facilities to convert organic matter into more of their kind. Atmospheric readings show poison gas, acid rain, and radiation levels that would kill most species in minutes, reported one of the Rilani officers. Bei looked at his human Marines, who were checking their environmental suits with casual efficiency. For us, this is just Tuesday, he said. The alien soldiers watched in amazement as humans charged through conditions that would kill them instantly. Where other species saw an uninhabitable death world, humans saw just another challenging environment. Captain Han's Special Forces team had a different mission. While the main battle raged in space, they infiltrated a Devourer hive ship using tactics that came straight from Earth's military history. "We're going to move through their ship like ghosts," she explained to her mixed human and alien team. "The Devourers have incredible sensors, but they're designed to detect energy signatures and organized attack patterns. A small group moving quietly should be invisible to them." The infiltration team included Rilani soldiers who had volunteered to learn human fighting methods. At first, they struggled with the concept of stealth and deception. "This seems dishonorable," said Lieutenant Kethmary. "Shouldn't we announce our presence and fight them fairly?" "Honor gets you killed," replied Sergeant Major Yoon Tae-hyung. "Dead heroes can't save anyone. We're here to win, not to look good doing it." Inside the Devourer ship, the team planted kinetic explosive charges throughout the vessel's organic infrastructure. The ship's biomechanical systems couldn't detect the simple chemical explosives because they weren't sophisticated enough to register as threats. "Their whole defensive system is designed to stop advanced energy weapons," Han observed as they moved through the dark corridors. They never considered that someone might use old-fashioned bombs. The space battle was turning into a masterpiece of human tactical thinking. Admiral Song had the alien fleets constantly changing their attack patterns, never letting the Devourers adapt to any single strategy. "Zentari fleet, switch to pattern 7, he ordered. "Kalathi squadrons, begin. Random harassment attacks on their flanks. Rilani heavy cruisers, prepare for a direct assault on their command ship." Commander Nethlar watched the battle from his position on the Rilani flagship. "This is insane," he said to his crew. "We're attacking in 12 different ways at once. No rational mind could plan defenses against this." "That's exactly why it's working," replied his weapons officer, who had been learning human tactics. "The Devourers can't predict our moves because we're not making logical choices." The turning point came when Captain Han's team detonated their charges inside the Devourer hive ship. The massive vessel, larger than any human city, began to tear itself apart from within. As its command functions failed, the entire Devourer fleet lost coordination. "Now," ordered Admiral Song. "All ships, full assault." The combined fleet struck like a hammer blow. Human kinetic weapons punched through Devourer shields, while alien energy weapons exploited the weaknesses created by the physical impacts. Species that had never worked together before moved with the precision of a single organism. On the planet's surface, Colonel Bay's forces were learning the value of human persistence. The Devourer ground forces were individually superior to any single soldier, but humans fought as a team in ways the hive mind couldn't understand. "They keep coming back," reported a Devourer communication that Dr. O had managed to intercept and decode. "We destroy their positions, but they rebuild them. We kill their soldiers, but more appear. How many of these creatures exist?" "Not as many as you think," Bay said when he heard the message. "But we don't give up. That's the difference between us and you." The battle lasted for 18 hours, far longer than any previous engagement with the Devourers. When it finally ended, 3 star systems had been liberated and millions of civilians rescued. But the real victory was what had happened to the alien forces during the fighting. Species that had been fighting the Devourers separately for years had learned to work together. The peaceful Rilani had discovered they could fight with desperate fury when defending their families. The logical Zentari had learned to make intuitive decisions. The hive-minded Kalathi had learned to think as individuals. "Something has changed," observed Ambassador Velthar as he toured the human flagship after the battle. "My people fought differently today. More aggressively." More like humans. Admiral Song looked out at the mixed fleet, where human and alien crews worked side by side to repair battle damage. War changes everyone who fights it. The question is whether the change makes you stronger or weaker. Dr. O presented his analysis of the battle to the combined command staff. The Devourers are starting to make mistakes. Their hive mind is being overloaded by our unpredictable tactics. They're designed to fight logical enemies, not chaotic ones. But intelligence gathered from the captured Devourer ships brought sobering news. Captain Han's team had found navigation data that showed the true scope of the threat. This wasn't their main fleet, she reported grimly. This was just a scouting force. The real Devourer armada is still out there, and it's 10 times larger than anything we've faced. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They had won an important victory, but the war was far from over. The enemy they had struggled to defeat was just the advance guard of a much larger threat. "How long until the main force arrives?" asked Admiral Song. Han checked the captured data. "Based on their movement patterns, maybe 6 months, possibly less." Colonel Bay looked around the room at the mixed group of human and alien officers who had become his comrades in arms. "Then, we have 6 months to turn the rest of the galaxy into fighters. 6 months to teach everyone what we learned today. Can it be done?" asked Velthar. Admiral Song stood and walked to the main display, which showed the tactical readouts from the recent battle. "A few weeks ago, your people thought kinetic weapons were primitive. Today they use them to tear apart Devourer ships. If you can learn that much in 3 weeks, imagine what you can learn in 6 months." The war was entering a new phase, and humanity had become the teachers for an entire galaxy. The main Devourer fleet arrived 2 weeks early, emerging from hyperspace like a dark storm cloud that blotted out the stars. General Lim Soo-young stood in the command center of the new Galactic Defense Station, watching the sensor displays with growing alarm. "How many ships?" she asked Commander No Jin-hyuk, her intelligence officer. "Over 10,000 vessels, General. Some of them are the size of small moons." His voice was steady, but she could see the fear in his eyes. This fleet could consume entire star systems in days. The past 6 months had transformed the galaxy's military forces. Human tactics and weapons had spread to hundreds of species, creating an alliance unlike anything in galactic history. But even with all their preparations, this enemy force was beyond anything they had imagined. Dr. Lee Hayen rushed into the command center carrying a datapad filled with her latest research. As the galaxy's leading expert on Devourer biology, she had been working day and night to find weaknesses in their enemy. "I've found something," she announced breathlessly. "The hive mind has a critical flaw that we can exploit." General Lim turned from the tactical displays. "What kind of flaw?" "The original creators of the Devourers were a hyper-advanced species that thought in purely logical terms," Dr. Lee explained. "They programmed the hive mind to process threats based on rational decision-making patterns. But human behavior doesn't follow logical rules." She activated a holographic display showing brain scan patterns. "When we act unpredictably, it creates cascading errors in their threat assessment system. The more chaotic our tactics, the more confused they become." "So we need to be even more unpredictable than before?" asked Admiral Park Jae-won, who commanded the Integrated Defense Fleet. "Not just unpredictable," Dr. Lee said. "We need to be completely irrational by their standards. We need to do things that make no sense to a computer-like mind." General Lim studied the fleet deployment charts. The combined galactic forces now included over 5,000 ships from dozens of different species. It was impressive, but still, outnumbered 2-1 by the Devourers. We can't win a straight fight, she admitted. We need a strategy that uses our advantages while avoiding our weaknesses. Commander No had been analyzing the Devourer fleet composition. They're organized in perfect geometric formations, with each ship type positioned for maximum efficiency. It's beautiful, but it's also predictable. Then we'll give them chaos, General Lim decided. Operation Endgame is now in effect. All fleet commanders prepare for unconventional warfare. The first phase of Operation Endgame began with the most insane military maneuver in galactic history. Instead of meeting the Devourer fleet head-on, General Lim ordered the Allied forces to scatter in all directions. "Are you certain about this strategy?" asked Admiral Velnoth of the Rilani fleet. "Dividing our forces seems like tactical suicide." "That's exactly what the Devourers think, too," replied General Lim. "They expect us to concentrate our firepower and fight a defensive battle. Instead, we're going to attack everywhere at once." The Devourer hive mind tried to process the Allied fleet's movements, but found no logical pattern. Ships moved in seemingly random directions, attacking targets that had no strategic value, then retreating before the enemy could respond. "They're hitting our mining operations on asteroid 7742B, reported a Devourer communication that Dr. Lee's team had intercepted. "This target has no military significance. Why are they wasting resources on it?" The answer came 12 hours later, when the asteroid's processed materials exploded, creating a chain reaction that destroyed an entire Devourer supply convoy. The humans had turned a worthless rock into a massive bomb using nothing but creative thinking and basic chemistry. Meanwhile, Captain Han Ji-young was leading special operations missions throughout Devourer-controlled space. Her mixed teams of humans and aliens had learned to fight together like a single organism. "Remember, we're not trying to win battles," she told her troops before a raid on a Devourer communication hub. "We're trying to drive them crazy. Every time they think they understand what we're doing, we change the rules." The raid succeeded beyond all expectations. Not only did they destroy the communication facility, but they also left behind confusing evidence that suggested the attack had come from 3 different directions, using weapons that shouldn't exist. "The enemy is employing impossible tactics," the Devourer hive mind reported to itself. "Energy signatures indicate kinetic weapons, but impact patterns suggest directed energy. Attack came from coordinates that our sensors show were empty." Dr. Oh Kyung-ho's psychological warfare teams were having similar success across the front lines. They had learned to exploit the Devourer's logical thinking in ways that caused maximum confusion. "We broadcast fake surrender messages from positions where we have no troops," he explained to a group of alien officers. "When the Devourers investigate, they find empty space. But our real forces attack from the opposite direction while they're looking for surrendering enemies that don't exist." The Rilani officer looked puzzled. "Isn't that lying?" "It's war," replied Dr. O. "The first casualty in any war is truth. If lying saves lives, then lying is the moral choice." This concept was difficult for many alien species to understand. They had evolved in civilizations where honesty and direct communication were valued above all else. Learning to fight dirty was as hard for them as learning new weapons. But slowly, the alien forces were adapting to human methods. The peaceful. Rilani learned to use deception and misdirection. The logical Zentari discovered the power of intuitive thinking. The collective-minded Kolati mastered individual initiative. The turning point in the war came during the Battle of the 7 Worlds. where General Lim implemented the most complex tactical operation in military history. 7 different star systems were under attack simultaneously, and the Devourer fleet was spread across multiple sectors. "All units, implement Pattern Omega," she ordered. What followed was beautiful chaos. Human ships attacked in spirals that made no geometric sense. Alien forces used kamikaze tactics that violated every principle of self-preservation. Entire fleets disappeared, only to reappear behind enemy lines using experimental hyperspace technology. "This is insane," Admiral Park reported from his flagship during the height of the battle. "Half our maneuvers are impossible, and the other half are suicide missions. But somehow it's working." The Devourer hive mind was experiencing something like a nervous breakdown. Every tactical algorithm it used to predict enemy behavior was failing. Ships appeared where they shouldn't be. Attacks came from impossible angles. Enemy forces seemed to multiply and divide in ways that defied physics. "Cannot compute enemy intentions." The intercepted Devourer communications became increasingly frantic. Tactical patterns suggest multiple species working with unified purpose, but this contradicts all data about galactic civilization behavior. Colonel Bay's ground forces were fighting the most important battle on the planet Kepler Prime, where a massive Devourer processing facility was converting captured civilians into biological material for their war machine. "We need to save those people," he told his mixed human-alien battalion. "But the facility is protected by defensive systems that could wipe out our entire force." The solution came from an unlikely source. Lieutenant Kethamri, the Rilani officer who had once questioned the honor of stealth tactics, proposed a plan that was both brilliant and completely insane. "What if we don't attack the facility?" she suggested. "What if we make the facility attack itself?" Using a combination of human engineering skills and Rilani technological knowledge, they created a computer virus designed to confuse the facility's automated systems. But instead of trying to shut down the machines, the virus made them think that everything inside the facility was an enemy target. "The Devourers built their systems to be logical and efficient," explained Engineer Park Do-hyun as they uploaded the virus. "But logic becomes a weakness when it's based on false information." The facility's defensive systems activated and began systematically destroying everything inside, including the Devourer forces that were supposed to be protected. Within hours, the entire complex had torn itself apart from within as the battles raged across multiple star systems. Something unprecedented happened. The different alien species began fighting not just with human tactics, but with human spirit. They learned to take risks that their careful, logical minds would never have considered before. "We're becoming more like them," observed Ambassador Velthar as he watched Rilani soldiers charge into battle with the same fierce determination as human Marines. "Is this what we want?" General Lim looked out at the mixed fleet where ships from dozens of worlds fought together as one force. "Evolution isn't always comfortable," she said, "but it's necessary for survival." The climactic battle took place around the Galactic Council's capital world. The Devourers had assembled their most powerful ships for a final assault that would decapitate the galactic government and end all organized resistance. But they found an enemy that no longer resembled the civilized species they had been designed to fight. Instead, they faced an alliance of worlds that had learned to fight with the desperate cunning of survivors from a death world. "All ships, final assault," ordered General Lim as the combined fleet moved in for the decisive battle. The final battle for the Galactic Council's capital world lasted 3 days and changed the course of history. When it ended, the space around the planet was filled with the wreckage of 10,000 Devourer ships, the hive mind that had conquered. Hundreds of worlds had been shattered by tactics it could never understand. Ambassador Kang Minseo stood before the Reformed Galactic Council 6 months after the war's end. As Earth's first official representative to galactic civilization, she had the honor of addressing the largest gathering of alien species in recorded history. "The war taught us many things," she began, looking out at the assembled delegates from over 300 worlds. "But the most important lesson was this: our differences are not weaknesses to be overcome. They are strengths to be celebrated." The council chamber had been rebuilt after the Devourers' attack, but it looked different now. Instead of the formal, symmetric layout that emphasized order and hierarchy, the new design encouraged interaction between different species. Human architects had worked with alien engineers to create something that served everyone's needs. Admiral Park Jae-won commanded the new integrated defense force from his flagship, the Unity. The ship itself was a symbol of how much had changed. Its hull was built with Rilani crystal technology. Its weapon systems used human kinetic principles. Its engines were powered by Zentari mathematics, and its crew included members from dozens of different worlds. 6 months ago, our fleets had never fought together, he reported to the council. Today, mixed crews are standard throughout the defense force. We've discovered that diversity isn't just politically correct, it's tactically superior. The transformation had been remarkable to witness. Species that had been fighting the Devourers separately for decades had learned to combine their strengths in ways no one had imagined possible. The peaceful Rilani had become fierce defenders when fighting alongside human marines. The logical Zentari had learned to make intuitive leaps that solved problems their careful calculations couldn't handle. Professor Yu Hansel opened the first class at the new Galactic War College with students from 50 different species. The college itself had been a human idea. Most alien civilizations had never needed permanent military education because they had never faced existential threats. "Today we begin studying the history of warfare," he announced to the mixed group of cadets. "Not just human warfare, but the military traditions of all our species. We will learn from everyone because everyone has something to teach." The young alien students looked strange to human eyes, but they all shared the same eager expression. They were the first generation to grow up in a galaxy where cooperation between species was normal instead of exceptional. "Professor," asked a Rilani cadet, "why did the Devourers fail? They had superior numbers and advanced technology." Professor Yu smiled. "They failed because they were designed to fight a specific type of enemy, civilized species that followed logical patterns. When they encountered enemies who fought illogically, their programming couldn't adapt." A Zentari student raised her hand. "But humans aren't really illogical. Your tactics follow patterns. They're just more complex patterns." "Exactly," Yu replied. "What looked like chaos to the Devourers was actually organized chaos. We combined careful planning with flexible execution. We used logic to be illogical. Dr. Lee Hayen had become the galaxy's leading expert on threat assessment. Her research center studied potential dangers from throughout known space, using methods that combined human intuition with alien analytical skills. The Devourers were just one threat, she explained to a gathering of scientists. There are others out there. Rogue artificial intelligences, space-borne predators, dimensional invaders, but now we're ready for them." Her team included researchers from dozens of species, all working together to prepare for dangers that might not emerge for centuries. It was long-term thinking that would have been impossible before the war, when each species only worried about its own immediate problems. The changes weren't just military. Throughout galactic civilization, the concept of death world thinking had become popular. Alien species began sending volunteers to harsh environments to develop the resilience and adaptability that had saved them during the war. We call them survival schools, explained Commander Nethalar, who had become one of the first alien graduates of human military training. Young people from comfortable worlds go to dangerous planets to learn what your species learned naturally. The Rilani had established training camps on high-gravity worlds where their youth learned to fight and survive in conditions their ancestors would have found impossible. The peaceful Zentari created competitive programs that taught aggression and risk-taking. Even the collective-minded Kolathi developed individual initiative training. Are we becoming more like humans? A journalist asked during an interview with Ambassador Velthar. No, he replied thoughtfully. We're becoming more like ourselves. The war showed us capabilities we didn't know we had. Humans didn't change us. They revealed what we could be. The economic changes were just as dramatic as the military ones. Before the war, trade between species had been limited by cultural misunderstandings and technological incompatibilities. Now, mixed crews and shared knowledge had opened up possibilities that no one had imagined. Captain Han Ji-young had retired from special operations to become a civilian consultant, helping alien governments reorganize their security forces. Her methods were now taught throughout the galaxy. The key is flexibility, she explained to a group of Rilani police chiefs. Don't just prepare for the threats you expect. Prepare for the threats you can't imagine. This philosophy was spreading beyond military applications. Alien scientists were learning to approach research problems with human-style creativity. Artists were combining different cultural traditions to create new forms of expression. Engineers were designing systems that could adapt to unexpected circumstances. 10 years after the war, Professor Yu gave his final lecture before retirement. The War College had grown into the galaxy's premier educational institution, with branch campuses on hundreds of worlds. When humans first joined galactic civilization, we were considered primitive by many species, he told his students. Our weapons were crude, our tactics were chaotic, and our thinking was illogical. But those apparent weaknesses became strengths when faced with an enemy that couldn't understand them. A human student in the class raised his hand. Professor, do you think we made the galaxy more violent by teaching everyone human tactics? You considered the question carefully. We made the galaxy more capable of violence when violence is necessary, he said finally. But we also made it more capable of cooperation, more adaptable to change, and more resilient in the face of threats. The galaxy is not more violent. It's more alive. The final scene of this chapter in galactic history took place on the edge of known space, where a joint exploration fleet encountered signals from an aggressive alien species. The transmission was clearly hostile, demanding that the inferior creatures withdraw from space that belonged to their empire. Captain Kim, Minji, now an admiral commanding the exploration fleet, listened to the transmission with calm interest. Her crew included humans, Rilani, Zentari, Kalathi, and a dozen other species, all working together as naturally as breathing. "What are your orders, Admiral?" asked her tactical officer, a Rilani who had been trained in human combat doctrines. Admiral. Kim looked at the sensor readings showing dozens of enemy ships approaching in perfect formation. Their tactics were predictable, their technology was advanced, and their attitude was arrogant. They were exactly the type of enemy the Devourers, had been designed to fight. "Signal all ships," she ordered calmly. "Implement pattern Omega-7. Let's show these newcomers what this galaxy has learned." The enemy fleet never knew what hit them. They had expected to face the same type of civilized, predictable opponents that their species had been conquering for millennia. Instead, they encountered an alliance that fought with the combined knowledge of hundreds of worlds and the adaptive spirit of a Deathworld species. The battle was over in 6 hours. The surviving enemy ships withdrew in confusion, carrying reports that would puzzle their high command for years. How had inferior technology defeated superior forces? How had a smaller fleet outmaneuvered a larger one? How had chaos triumphed? Over order? The answers to those questions would spread throughout this new empire as they had spread throughout the galaxy a decade earlier. Word would reach other aggressive species in distant star clusters. The reputation of the Galactic Alliance would become legend among both friends and enemies. But on the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Kim simply turned to her mixed-species crew and said, "Set course for the next system. We have exploring to do." The galaxy had learned from its Deathworlders, and it would never be the same. What had begun as a desperate plea for help had become a transformation that would echo through the stars for thousands of years. Humanity had shared its greatest gifts, adaptability, creativity, and the refusal to surrender, with an entire galaxy. And in return, the galaxy had shared its wisdom, technology, and friendship with the species from the little blue planet that had answered the call when all seemed lost. Together, they would face whatever challenges the universe.